And right now I am 56 hours. That's right, 56 hours into this week's fast. If you're joining me right now, if you've been with me, your body is doing something that most people never get to experience. You're crossing the point where fasting stops being a challenge and it starts becoming recalibration. Your metabolism is shifting gears, your hormones are realigning, your brain is being fueled differently right now. And what's more incredible is all of this is happening without a prescription, without a pill, without a gimmick. This is the work your body was designed to do when you give it the space. So in this episode, I want to take you a little deeper, not just into the science of what's happening at 56 hours, but into the mindset, the identity transformation that this window of fasting makes possible. Because fasting is not just about what you stop eating. We think about that, but it's also about who you start becoming. So let's go ahead, let's dive in. That's what we're doing. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. We are creating the life we've always wanted, and we are living limitless lives, which says that we are not allowing anything to stop us. We are presenting our best selves, our best health, and our best plans, and we are breaking through those boundaries, breaking through those borders, we're breaking through those constraints, and presenting our best selves, our best health, and our best plans. If you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments, because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And let you know that I am excited and glad that you are here. If you do have comments, if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the chat, and go ahead and make sure you put a Q in front of that question so we know that that is a question that we need to get to. We'll be looking at some things here in a minute. We'll be looking at my monitors, which I've got off to the side, and we'll be looking at my Dexcom Clarity Report, which you'll see right down below me as we look at what's been going on with my blood sugars over the last several days as we've been walking through the fast. If you have not yet been over to our channel and you've not been engaged in our let me say this way. There are lots of things going on in our channel, There are all the things that we're talking about. You will find something on the channel that correlates, that gives you space to experience it, and that gives you the structure that you need to get that part of the Limitless Living Health Action Plan going. Right now, we are walking through strength, strategy, and mindset. That is our strength training routine, our strength training exercises, our strength training component. It is part of our MOVE campaign. That is metabolic optimization via exercise. If you are going to be truly metabolically free, if you're going to be truly in the process of reversing your disease processes and helping with your metabolism, then you've got to move. And that's the function, that's the thrust of the MOVE campaign. We did the 100-day walk to consistency and health. Now we are in day 69 of the strength, strategy, and mindset. And we are continuing to move, because moving is a big part of what we need to do as we are trying to reverse our diabetes, trying to improve our metabolic health, and get off of some of those medications that we always talk about. Okay, so make sure you get over there. The shows are there. The ones from the 100-day walk to consistency are there, definitely. Then, of course, the strength, strategy, and mindset is currently the series that we're in, but that doesn't mean that we've forgotten about walking. So don't think that just because we're lifting some weights that we've forgotten the fact that we should be out there also walking and getting our steps in. All right. Let's see what else. So just want to encourage you to do that. Encourage you to make sure that you are walking with us. If you were with us as we move through our fast this week, you may have seen our pop-up live that came yesterday as we started the fast. 2 days ago as we started the fast, what we ate for the last meal prior to getting into the fast. And then, of course, those of you who ended the fast yesterday, congratulations to you. Hand clap. Those of you who started the fast today and are going into tomorrow, congratulations for you. Started yesterday and coming into today, so congratulations. And then, of course, those who are starting today and are ending tomorrow, we enjoy being with you as we move through this space, as we work on our metabolism. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at blood sugars and see what's been going on with my blood sugars. And you'll see here, this is my Freestyle Libre, and right now the Freestyle Libre says that my blood sugar is 63, and we're looking at this number right here, that's 63. You'll see that squiggly line that's in the graph right here. And the first part of the day, you'll see that the graph was white, so that was above 70. And then all the parts that you see that are red, those are blood sugars that are below 70. So for roughly half of the day, I was right above 70, and then part of the day I was below 70 intermittently. And you'll see there at the end of that graph that it went up and then went back down and up and went back down. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what my Dexcom report says, and we'll see similar information here. And right here we're looking at this number, right? That's my average according to this, and you'll see that they are 24 points away from each other. Okay, and what I like about the Dexcom is that when I look at the graph, I can actually put my finger on the graph and you can see what those numbers are. You'll see they're coming into, and this is a 24-hour view. You'll see right about this time yesterday or last night, we were 88, 88, 88, continuing in the 80s into the morning, and you see it spiked up there at about 2 o'clock, up to 100, 101, 106, and then as we got into the morning, still staying in the 90s, low 100s, and right here is what I call the toothpaste effect. So, we brush my teeth, and then we get I usually get a big spike. Let's see how high did it go today. So it looks like the highest it went was 117. Oh no, there's a 122. Went up to about 122, and then started going back down into the hundreds, into the 90s, and then down to where we are right now. So one of the questions that I get asked is, if the blood sugar is, for instance, let's go back to the other graph. Let's go back to, oops, not that one. Let's go back to this graph. So the question I get asked about this graph is, if the blood sugar dropped below 70, right, which it did, and you see the red part, and then you see the partially in the red, you see some white. So the question is, why does the blood sugar go back up if you're fasting? And there are a couple of answers, several answers to that. Two answers. One, pretty practical for me, and I just mentioned part of it, is in the morning when I get up and I brush my teeth, there's sugar in the toothpaste. Okay, and I've not found a way to mitigate that yet, other than not brushing my teeth, not good, or finding some other toothpaste, which I'm still looking for, something that actually tastes good, that doesn't cause that problem for me while I'm fasting. So that's the one thing. The other thing is, when the blood sugar drops, and we'll talk about this here in a minute, my body has to find energy somewhere. And so it goes and it burns fat. And in the process of burning fat, it creates what's called triglycerides, right? Triglycerides are 3. And triglycerides, I kind of think of it as, kind of a fruit with 3 spikes on it, right? And so the body breaks off the spikes, and what it's left with is the rest of the fruit. Well, the rest of the fruit is called glycerol, and that glycerol can be turned into sugar. So even though you are not eating sugar, even though you're not taking anything in that has carbs, your body still has the ability to convert other non-carb containing sources into sugar. And so that's why you'll see that blood sugar that fluctuation. And I actually get excited when I see that. Right? Well, let me hold that thought for a minute, and let's go over and let's take a look at my monitors. I've got my Keto Mojo, and I've also got my Contour, and I'll make a point here in a minute. If I don't, remind me. And let's go ahead and take we've got to get some strips out. So I need a brown one for blood sugar, and I need a blue one for ketones. Get that one back in there. I'm going to grab a lancet, which I'll need to prick my finger. And then for the contour, I'll need one of the contour strips. Let's go ahead and get that out. And then put this back. Okay. And let's go ahead and get the contour strip in. And open up the Keto Mojo strips. And see, you see how easily the glucose one opens up? And then I always have trouble with the ketones. So let me go ahead and do that. Maybe I just need to tear the, see? All right, there we are. Anyway, I got it open. And then let's go ahead and grab a, this is my lancet. Go ahead and open that up. And there is my, you see the little needle? Hopefully you can see it right about there. And let's grab a finger. Yeah, we'll do the same one. And ow, 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 ow. And hopefully that gives me a good, yep, there we go. A good drop of blood. And that was a pretty good one. Usually, well, I shouldn't say usually. Sometimes it doesn't come out as briskly, but my fingers are warm. And so you see, according to the Keto Mojo, my blood sugar is 66. According to the Contour is 72. And then right there, according to the Freestyle, it's 64. Okay. And let's go ahead and get this out. Get the ketone strip in. And if you're out there, what do you think my ketones are going to be? Yeah, go ahead and drop a guess in there. And I think I see someone already putting a guess in. Okay, so 56 hours of fasting, 56 hours of fasting. I'm always weary of this because of that spike that I get in the morning, because sometimes I think that messes up the ketones. All right, 3, 2, 1, and what is it? It is 0.8. Okay, so 0.8. And so let me go ahead and pull over the Keto Mojo. This is my Keto Mojo app. And let's go ahead and we're syncing that and scanning. Scanning. Looks like something happened. Let's try that again. Oh, let's pull this strip out. There we go. And try it again. We're going to say sync. This is not a new meter, but for some reason it is not pulling over. Let's try it one more time. All right. So ketones that are less than 0.5 considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis. And yeah, so let's get away from that. And then ketones that are 1.5 or higher, then those are considered therapeutic. So less than 0.5 normal, 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then higher than that considered therapeutic ketosis. And so right now I am 0.8, right? And so I tell people I am excited anytime it's 0.5 or higher. And the point I wanted to make earlier, let's go back and look at this graph, or look at this view. So right here, right, people will say to me, well, why does the blood sugar fluctuate? And I explained a little while ago, the body has the ability to convert fat to ketones and to sugar. So my blood sugar is possible to fluctuate up and down because my body is still converting sugar. And I like when I see that, because where do you think it gets the sugar from? Well, if my blood sugar is low, like it is right now, right, 64, and my ketones are in the ketosis range, which it is right now, and I'm seeing blood sugars going higher and then coming back down, the only way that happens is if my body is in ketosis, if it's burning fat. And so when I see those fluctuations, right, people say, well, oh, my blood sugar went up to, went up to 95, 96. It was down at 80 or 89 and it went up. And I get excited when I see that, particularly if my sugar is low and my ketones are elevated, then I know my body has to be burning fat and converting that fat into sugar or into glucose. So I get excited whenever I see that, and you should as well. It's one of those things that we talk about tracking, right? When we talk about tracking blood sugar, we track ketones, and there are particular numbers that we're looking for. But understanding the physiology also helps you to understand when you see things on the monitors, what they actually mean that's going on in your body. So I'm imagining in my body, the body going to the fat cells and pulling some fat cells out and chopping it up and sending the ketones off to someplace, and then say, hey, I need some energy, so let me go ahead and convert this to this glycerol, convert it to sugar so that we can keep the process going. And so that for me is an exciting process, and that only happens because you understand what's going on in the body. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and let's take a look. Let's do a quick check-in. I want to do a check-in. We didn't do this the last time. And let's see. You want to do that yet? Or let's talk to our community. Well, yeah, let's do a check-in. I'll do a check-in. We have not done a check-in in the last couple of times that we were here. And the check-in really is checking to see where I am and where you are in your fasting, right? Where you are in your fasting. And there are three areas that I talk about when I talk about the check-in: how I'm doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. Physically, mentally, and emotionally. And these are the three places where people will have challenges, and they are how people feel their energy. And often the concept of fasting will cause some dissonance in some people's minds, because they think that during the fast they are going to be tired, fatigued, they're going to have these symptoms, and many of those symptoms in terms of energy level really come only when we are not well rested or hydrated. And so we'll have things like headaches, feeling lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, palpitations. Right now, I'm not feeling any of that. I've been doing a good job over the last several days in this fast of resting. In fact, when it was 2 days ago, I came home and I went to sleep. I had to go to sleep. Right, that was Tuesday because we didn't have a show. So I had to go to sleep. My body was just saying, okay, dude, you've been running. We had the weekend had some things going on, and so we traveled. I think I mentioned that with you guys. And so coming back had to get some rest. So this week I've done a good job of resting. I've also done a good job of hydrating. I think last week I said I had a headache, and the headache came because I realized I had not been drinking. So right now, physically, I'm actually doing pretty good. I'm not having any of those symptoms people will associate with low energy, feeling like I'm weak, tired, hitting a wall, any of those things. I'm not having palpitations. I'm not having lightheadedness, dizziness, and sweating. And I'm not sweaty. And then mentally, because I'm rested, as you know, how we think actually sometimes goes along with how we feel in terms of our energy. And so because I've been rested, I'm feeling clear. I'm not feeling foggy headed. I'm not feeling as though I'm in a tunnel. I'm not feeling as though I'm grasping for words. I'm not feeling as though my thought process is drifting, right? So all of those things sometimes people will comment about. And then emotionally, this has been a good week. This has been an amazing week. This has been a fun week for me, coming into the week, being in this space with the community, seeing some things that are going on physically for me as I have been walking through the strength, strategy, and mindset, looking at blood sugars and seeing what they are, and just enjoying the process of, was it yesterday, last night in our after the show. So we have after the show, we meet up with some of our community members. So if you're not a community member, make sure you do that. And you'll see folks who are commenting right now. You'll see there's a yellow star or a green star that's there, and that means that they're part of the community. They've joined our community. So if you've not done that, make sure you do that. But anyway, in our meetup yesterday, in our after the show, we were talking about the fact that as we are now well into the Limitless Living Health Action Plan, that it is becoming, or it has become, a pattern. It's no longer as problematic finding the time or knowing what we're doing next. Even as we were in the process of doing the 100-day walk to consistency and health, and also as we started the strength strategy and mindset, you'll notice that when we started strength strategy and mindset, we developed a routine, we developed a circuit, we did the same exercises. We are now saying those exercises we've been doing this now 69 days. Okay, so they are now a part of your psyche. And now what we're doing is really just modifying those, amplifying those, figuring out how we get some additional benefit, but it is now a part of what we do. And so all of that helps to put you in the space where your mind doesn't have to fuss and worry about what the schedule is, what I need to do. It is now a part of who you are, and that's the beauty. That's the beauty of routine and structure, right? So I'm getting into some other things right now, but that's the idea. And so that's my check-in right now. What I didn't do was I did not do my blood sugar. So let's go ahead and hop over and take a look at those right now. And here is my Dexcom Clarity. My average blood sugar, 119 for the last 14 days, so that's what it is. My glucose management indicator is 6.2, so if I were to get an A1C based on this number right now, that's what I would expect my A1C to be. It's an approximation, but usually pretty good. I'm in target 99% of the time, with a target being between 70 to 180. If I look at the 90-day, because that's how we track, right? So 90 days. Average of 116. This is now for 90 days. And my glucose management indicator is a 6.1. Okay. Still target 98% of the time, with my target range being between 70 to 180. If I look at the daily graphs, all right, so here we are right now. And let's look at those blood sugars. So the entire day we've been kind of hovering in the 80s to low 100s, 80s to low 100s. The highest that we got was right in here, I think 122, which was right around 8 o'clock. And so that is a result of whatever happened here in terms of toothpaste right there. So as I mentioned to everybody, I see that bump pretty much pretty consistently in the morning. Going further back and so now we are going back now to 36 hours into the fast. So we've been running in the low 100s, 80s, 90s, going back further, and this is where we started the fast, right in here. So low 100s, and so you saw what I ate. If you didn't see that, go back and watch that episode. And you see that my blood sugar, I think, is spiked up to maybe 120. Okay, 119 was the highest that it got. And then began coming back down, coming back down, coming back down, coming back down. So if you look at the blood sugars from the time I started fasting, which was right in here, right in here. So 100, 106, right, went up to about 120, right in there. 121, I think, was the highest. And then going forward, 100s, low 100s, 90s, 80s, going into the next day, 80s and 90s for the entire time, spiking up right in here. That's the morning. Once again, as we talked about, 80s and 90s, it continues to come back down, 80s and 90s, 80s and 90s, 80s and 90s the whole time. Then going into the next day, and we're in the 80s, 90s, 101, 108, 106, 109, 107, right, 199. Back down, and then here again is our morning spike right up in here, and then that the blood sugar continues to go down to where we are right now, which is in the 80s. Okay, so I want you to see that, and the reason I go through that is because I want you to understand what's going on in the body. I want you to understand what happens to blood sugars and the benefit that you are getting as you're walking through the fast. Okay, want to make sure we do that. So let's go ahead and let's say hello to some of our community members. I see you guys out there, and you guys are having a good time, so I'm going to come join you. And I think I saw Julian was the first one who came on. So let's say, let me make sure. Yeah, there we are. Let's put this up. And so Gian says, hi, Doctor, and hi, LLG. Hey, Gian, welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming through. And Gian was giving a guess 1.2. Cornelia was giving 1.2, and we ended up being, I think, was it 0.8? Gian says, hi, sis. Cornelia says, hi, sis. LLG, hey, Dr. Woode. Steve says, said, then my fat's on fire now. His ketones were 2.9. GKI 1.8, burning fat. So you're burning fat. That's right. That's right, Steve. It is burning fat. And so notice that. Notice what he said, right? So he's excited because he sees those ketones. 2.9, right? He sees those ketones. He's excited. He knows the only way that your body gets ketones is if it's burning fat. So I want you to understand, right? So sometimes we see the numbers or we hear people talking and we don't quite understand what's happening or what's going on. And that's why we do what we do and show the numbers and talk about the numbers so that you, right, you'll be sitting there and you'll see I see a blood sugar. I see my blood sugar 69. I'm excited. Right? Nobody knows. I'm just watching it. My monitor goes off and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's it. That's what I need right there. Okay? So 2.9, hey Steve, that's great. Gian says hi Steve. Gian says how wow, great Steve. Wow Steve from Cornelia. She says hers was 1.2. Gian says wow Cornelia, great job. That's good Cornelia. She says thank you both. You're welcome, sis. Steve says, Cornelia says, Steve, do you feel any different when your ketones are that high? I imagine your body is used to it by now. Steve says, no, I don't feel different. For 2 days, they've been around 1.5. I ate more veggies today, and that may have made them go up. Steve says, and my glucose has been good today. That's so cool. Great job. Thanks for sharing. Veggies is good for ketones. Gian is asking. All right, so one of the questions, not one of the questions, but when we talk about a ketogenic diet, right? Ketogenic diet, there is when you're eating meals that are low carbs, right? When you're eating meals that are low carbs, you will go into you can go into ketosis. I shouldn't say will. You can go into ketosis. So people who are eating in a ketogenic way, sometimes they're eating vegetables. And I've said to people before that you don't have to be, go all carnivore in order to go into ketosis. You can have vegetables if they're very low carb vegetables and stay in ketosis. And so I'm not sure what Steve had today, but there you are. He said, I don't know very much about the ketones. Let me go back. So I think Juan says, I thought fat is good for ketones. Yes, fat is good for ketones. Let me back up. Low carb is good for ketones. So it is possible to eat carbs and still be in ketosis if the carbs are low enough. But definitely if you eat fat, then ketones are there. Steve says, I don't know much about ketones. Gino said, okay, Steve, thank you for sharing. Steve says, my glucose has been lower today. Let's see. Okay, that also has to help my ketones. Correct. If your blood sugar is low, then yeah, ketones. Then if your blood sugar is low, then insulin is low as well. And when insulin is low, ketones come out. And then Gion says, oh, I see. Awesome. Yeah, yep. So there we are. So love the community. So if you know somebody who needs to be here, somebody who needs to help be hanging out with us, invite them over as we jump into our discussion. Once again, 56 hours into this week's fast is where we are. Let's go ahead and let's have our conversation right now. All right, so let's go ahead and let's break it down. Because here at 56 hours, your body, my body is not just running on empty. That's one of the misconceptions about fasting. It's running on intelligence. It's running on stored energy. One of the conversations I have all the time is someone who will say to me, I can't fast. Or they'll say, well, I have to eat something. And the answer, to be honest, is no, you don't. Particularly if you have stored energy. And if you believe the studies, most of us have about 100,000 calories stored in their body. I want you to listen to that word, 100,000 calories that are stored for most of us. And so the body has the ability to go and burn those fat cells and convert it into energy. So no, you do not have to eat. I've had times where I'm talking to a couple and one couple will insist that the other one has to eat something. They can't. And it's always an interesting conversation because we go through that process, and unless you are understanding what's going on in the body, then the process doesn't make sense because you've been taught, we've been indoctrinated. Our culture says that you have to eat. In fact, we've taught people for years that they have to eat frequent small meals because that keeps the metabolism revved up. And that is really not the truth. It is a misconception. I shouldn't say it's not the truth. It is a misconception of how the body works. And you, if you've been following us, you understand that if I'm eating constantly through the day, every time I eat, because most of us, when we're eating, we're not just eating like meat, right? We're eating something that has some carbs. It may not be a lot of carbs, but it has some carbs in it. And if we're eating things that have carbs, then the body has to produce insulin. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit of insulin, it's producing insulin. And as long as insulin is around, the body will not go into full ketosis. And full ketosis, or this is a full ketosis, won't go into deep ketosis. And that means that the amount of fat that we're burning is lower than it would be if we were not eating throughout the day. Don't you understand that process? So in the 56-hour fast, my body is not running on intelligence. It knows what to do. Your body is not stupid. Your body is smart. And all we have to do is we have to give it the right circumstance. We have to give it the right conditions. And if we do that, then the body will begin doing what it needs to do. When I talk to people about whether their body is still making insulin, right? So we check something called C-peptide. And, they did a study and they took pancreatic cells, they put it in a petri dish and it was covered with sugar, right? The water, the water that was in the petri dish. And when they tried to extract insulin from that cell, a pancreatic cell, because that's the cell that is in the pancreas that makes insulin. There are several types, but so we'll just call it the insulin producing pancreatic cell. There's a name for it, but you don't have to worry about that. When they tried to pull insulin out of that cell, the cell did not make insulin. So they said, oh my goodness, the pancreas is not working. So they took that same cell, washed it off, put it in a media that had no sugar, so pure water. So basically the cell got washed off. Come back, and now the cell is producing insulin. What do you think happened? Well, what happened was we gave the cell, the body, the right environment for it to do what it needed to do. Now, I mean, hasten to say, we're talking about type 2 diabetics. Type 1 diabetics, we've not figured out yet how to combat what goes on in their body in terms of the damage that's being done. And we believe it's an infection that causes the insulitis, which is inflammation in the body, inflammation in the pancreas causes destruction of those cells. And so because those cells are destroyed, they are no longer able to function. So it's not that they have those cells that are functioning, that they can wake up. Those cells right now they're not working. Okay, so that's the type 1. But we're talking about type 2s now. So if we give the body the right environment, then the body is able to do what it needs to do. That is why when you go through a fast, you get to the end of the fast and you're able to eat some things at the end of the fast that you couldn't have eaten a month ago, 2 months ago, or even at the beginning of the fast. Why? Because when you were in the fast, the body was in the process of doing some things that set your body in the position to be able to manage the sugar that comes from whatever you're eating now. So what begins happening is that the body starts to become biologically calibrated. So we're getting biological recalibration. You've exited the glucose economy. So we're no longer using glucose as currency. It's kind of like, everybody's talking about Bitcoins and, right? It's kind of like when we transition from gold to dollars, dollar bills. Maybe we should go back the other way, but sorry. Right? So that's what's going on. So the body is no longer using that media for the economy. You've stabilized your insulin, and now your body is doing things you can't see, but will absolutely feel over time. So let's talk about that. Let's pull the curtains back a little bit. One of my favorite movies growing up was, or favorite stories, was The Wizard of Oz. And The Wizard of Oz, if you remember, Dorothy gets taken somewhere and she meets the Tin Man and the Lion and the Scarecrow. And they go to Oz and they find a wizard, and the wizard is supposed to be the one that's sending them back. And they, somehow pull back the curtain and they saw, the guy back there. So we're going to pull back the curtain now so that you could see what's going on the inside of your body. And what's really happening inside, and why this part of fasting may be one of the most powerful moments in your healing journey. Because there are things that are going on, right? Number one is our fuel shift. We're shifting from burning sugar to burning fat. We're oxidizing fat. So by now, your liver glycogen, 56 hours, the stores are gone. The body stores about 100 grams of glycogen in the liver, and that's fully depleted at 56 hours. That's why this is key, because it forces your body to increase lipolysis, that is the burning of fat, or the breakdown of stored fat into free fatty acids, like we talked about before, where we have those three components, those three spikes that are on the main body, and it breaks those off. The glycerol goes to get sugar, and the free fatty acids go on, and those are what we get when we, those are what gets converted into ketones. So those fatty acids are being converted into ketone bodies, specifically beta-hydroxybutyrate, which is the one we want. There are some other ones that we don't like, but beta-hydroxybutyrate is the one that we want. And this becomes your brain's primary source right now during fasting of energy. This shift is not just about weight loss, it's about energy efficiency. You're burning cleaner fuel. The body is in the process of burning the fat, and the fuel that you now have is more consistent. It doesn't fluctuate as much as sugar, and there are cells in the body that prefer this to burning the carbohydrates or the glycogen. The other thing that's going on is hormonal rebalance, the metabolic trifecta, if you will. So right now, three major hormones are adjusting. Number one is insulin, which we've talked about. It's at its baseline. Now, let me hasten to say this. Insulin is not a bad hormone. Yeah, you heard me say it. Insulin is not a bad hormone. Insulin does what insulin is supposed to do. Insulin is in the process of regulating sugar. That's its main job. There's some other things it does, but insulin does what it's supposed to do. And so when it's doing that, that's great, but it's the elevated super amount of insulin that's floating around our body that causes the problem, that causes those downstream effects. But right now, insulin is at its baseline. That means your cells are regaining insulin sensitivity, especially muscle cells and liver cells. That's also one of the reasons why during a fast, we talk about fasting and strength training, fasting and walking, right? All of those things. When you do that, you're jump starting those muscles. You're saying to them, we understand that right now you're doing a great job of using insulin, but let me help you out. Remember those GLUT4 transporters that are now poised to suck in sugar without the use of insulin. So if I can get rid of sugar without using insulin, then my insulin sensitivity goes up and the amount of insulin in my body has to go down. So insulin is at the baseline. Glycogen or glucagon is elevated. So this stimulates lipolysis because glucagon said, wait a minute. So when insulin is there, it's the storage hormone. It says, hey, take this and put it in storage. When glucagon shows up, glucagon said, no, give it back to me. Right? I'm taking it out of storage now. So glucagon is responsible for getting us into lipolysis or the breakdown of fat for energy. It's in the process of gluconeogenesis. That's the breaking the free fatty acids off of that component I told you and converting the glycerol into sugar. So it's producing sugar from non-carbohydrate sources. It's also producing sugar from lactate and amino acids. So that process is going on when glucagon shows up. That's happening here at 56 hours. And then a huge one, growth hormone, is dramatically increased by as much as 5 times what the baseline is. That's why when you exercise during fasting, you get a big boost. For those of you who are doing strength training, those of you who are doing fasting training workouts, your body heals faster. Those muscles, they recover faster. That means that you have bigger muscles, you have more tone, you have more strength because growth hormone is supercharged during this process. And this helps to preserve the lean muscle mass. Everybody talks about, say, hey, if I don't fast, I'm going to lose muscle. Yeah, you're going to lose some muscle, but the benefit that you get from the amount of muscles that you make, right, and the preservation you get from the fast outweighs the amount of muscle that you lose. This is why at 56 hours, you're not just maintaining muscle, you're actually protecting it even in the absence of food. You hear that? Even when there's not food, when everybody says, hey, if I don't eat, my muscle is going to go away. In the fast itself, because those growth hormone levels go so high, is protective for the muscles. And then the third thing that's happening is autophagy, the internal spring cleaning of the body. You've entered the peak window of autophagy. Your body's recycling system. It is going out now, and it is just like Pac-Man and Pac-Woman. It's just gobbling up pieces of broken, damaged, unused, misshapen cells that may be in the process of causing some inflammation, right? So inflammation gets better, causing some immune issues, or immune issues get better, causing some damage for nerves. So things like neuropathy and all of the neurodegenerative diseases get better. There's a cell in there that does not look quite right. if left alone, can develop into cancer. But autophagy now is going out, is finding all of those little cells and is just gobbling them up. It's cleaning the process. It's getting rid of those. So mitochondria, we talked about mitochondria being the battery in the body that gives us the energy. And there are old, damaged mitochondria that are there that are not functioning well. So the body takes those, it eats them, it sends them off to recycling, and they come back better, more. It's kind of like, was it the $6 Million Man or Bionic Woman? We can rebuild them, make them better than they were before. Better, fast, stronger, faster. That's what's going on in autophagy. And that whole process works to help our immunity. Their body is being tagged. All those broken cells, they're being tagged to be sent off to recycling. It's okay. It's like putting a mark on, okay, that one we need to get rid of, that one we need to get rid of, that one we need to get rid of, and then the process of autophagy comes and just gobbles it up. Sends it to recycling, and it comes back better. This isn't detox in a bottle. This is detox built into your DNA. This is not, oh, let me do 40 days of this fast to do this thing. This isn't, oh, I've got to, I'm not even going to talk about that, right? But this is your body. Your body is built for this. We just have to give it the right mechanism, the right environment for it to be able to do the things that it needs to do. And here's what's fascinating. This process only activates when insulin and amino acid levels are low. Meaning it only happens when you don't eat. This entire process. When I'm talking about full autophagy, this right here is the crux. The other thing that's going on is your nervous system is resetting. Your stress hormone, cortisol, which may be elevated initially, right? It's spiked up because when the body sees, when you start fasting, your body actually sees that as a stress. So early in fasting, cortisol level does go up, but it's now beginning to normalize. This matters because lower cortisol reduces inflammation. It stabilizes blood pressure. It improves sleep architecture. So you get better sleep when you're fasting. And as your digestion system shuts down, your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and restore mode takes over. Because the sympathetic is going to sleep. That's the fight or flight. That's like, oh, let me do this, let me do that, let me fight. I'm just on, right, I'm on edge. But the parasympathetic now takes over. This is why many people report mental stillness, spiritual clarity, and emotional groundedness right around this period. It's like, man, I was fasting and I just felt so good. I just felt so at peace. My mind was going and I was making these connections. All that's happening at this point. And then cognitive function. Ketones cause a win. So let's talk about your brain. So 56 hours, ketones are fueling up to 70% of your brain energy right now. They cross the blood-brain barrier easily and they produce less oxidative stress. So glucose will produce oxidative stress, and that is when it goes in, it has to produce these free radicals, and those are causing damage. But when ketones go in, they don't produce that. Think of it kind of like trying to get through a force field. Okay? And there's friction. Right? So you're trying to get through a force field and you've got, I don't know, some sticky stuff on you. Honey maybe. And as you're going through the force field, right? The honey is grabbing onto the force field, and it's like hard, right? You're walking through and you're Now you may get through, right? But you don't get through undamaged. But when ketones are going through, which is an energy source, the ketones just pass through. Not a problem. So the result of this is a sharper memory, heightened attention, increased GABA. This is the calming neurotransmitter that's in our body. Lower glutamate. This is the neurotransmitter that causes excitation. So all of this is with the process of kind of calming you down. And so you're not just fasting, you are neuroprotecting. So we talked about protecting muscles, but now we're protecting our nervous system. You're literally preserving brain tissue and brain function for the long term. So we talk now about, there's this phrase that's being thrown around, type 3 diabetes, which is thought to come from the elevated blood sugars and elevated hyperinsulinemia that's going on in the body, that's causing damage in the brain. And so we're getting these things like dementia, Alzheimer's disease. And here it is, that this process has the ability to mitigate that. You're protecting those neurons. You're preserving those brain tissues. And that helps you over the long term. Helps you over the long term. So now you know, this isn't just about pushing through hunger. It's about unlocking systems that repair, that reset, and restore at the cellular level. Your insulin is rebalanced. Your hormones are resetting. Your brain is firing cleaner, clearer, more efficiently. Your energy level is up because those mitochondria are being recycled and being rebuilt in better, stronger, faster fashion. But even more than that, you've proven that your body responds when you give it space. If we allow the body, give it the things it needs, the body has the ability to amaze us. And now that you understand what's happening under the surface, the question then becomes, who are you becoming while this transformation is taking place? Because fasting doesn't just heal the body, it rebuilds your belief in what your body was always capable of doing. On our show, Dwain Woode MD Live this week, we talked about the difference of between going, not the difference, we talked about going from head knowledge to practical experience. Knowing but not implementing versus knowing and taking action. And the action that's taken, the thing that drives long-term sustainable success, is the new you that is the power for limitless living. So you're not running on willpower. You're running on wisdom. Let me close with this. You've crossed from effort into efficiency. You've gone from stress into structure. From can I keep going into this is what I do. You're not fasting for fun. You're not fasting for just to fast. You're fasting for function. Fasting is a tool, and your function is getting sharper by the hour. Every time you fast, every time you commit, every time you are in the space, then your body is saying, okay, this is who we are. It's like the little engine that could, right? I think I can, 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 I know I can, I know I can, I know I can. We go from maybe to yeah, this is gonna happen. One of the silly shows that I remember when my son, I shouldn't say silly, one of the shows, one of the cartoons that my son used to watch was Bob the Builder. And so Bob and his crew would have some project that they have to work on, right? They got to go build a bridge, build a house. They've got to repair something. And so Bob would give them the plan, and they would say, "Can we do it?" And they'll say, "Yes, we can." And there was always one guy. He said, maybe I think we can. That's not who we are. We are now the people, the person who fasts, and the person who takes responsibility for our health. Nobody else is going to do it for us. We're not relying on somebody else. We have the power within us, and we're doing everything that we can. Walking, fasting, balanced bites, strength training, mental mastery, rest and restoration, planning and strategy. We are doing what we need to do for our health. And one of the things that you can do, one of the most powerful things you can do, is fasting. Stay with us. We will continue talking about all the things that you can do in the fasting, in the health action plan. Stay with us and we'll talk more. All right, so those of you who are out there, if you were fasting with us earlier, you got through your first 24 hours, and kudos, hand claps, music. If this was your first time going through a 24 hours, kudos to you. If you joined us today and you are currently in your 24 hours, I salute you. My hat's off to you. Continue working through. You will see amazing benefits, as we just talked about, in the fasting process in your body, and not just physically, but also mentally. That begins to make sense, and you begin to see the benefits of that. Those of you who've been with me for the entire fast, and I know some of our community members are out there doing that, I am applauding you, and I just can't tell you how much I appreciate the entire community. Those who did the 24 hours on day 1, 2, or 3, those who have done it with us, those who are doing intermittent fasting, right? So let me not leave you guys out. Intermittent fasting, all the fasting that you do gives benefit. Let me make a plug for that, right? So we say, I recommend that people work their way up to be able to fast one 24-hour period at least once a week. But that doesn't mean that if you're doing a 16-8, or you're doing a 12-12, or you're doing a 20-4, that you're not getting benefit. You are getting benefit. If you want to jumpstart that, if you want to supercharge that, we're pushing you to get to the more extended fast. And here's the key. The more you do it, the more your body wants it. And the more your body gets into it, and the more your body will say, I can do this. But sometimes the mind will fuss at us. Somebody else has told us something, or we've tried it in the past but not done it the right way, which is why every Friday we go through fasting. How to get ready for the fast, what's going on in my body, and how to get through the fast, and then how to break the fast and end the fast, so that process becomes a normal, natural, continuous process that you could do at any time. Repetition, 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 repetition. Practice, 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 and practice some more. Okay? So we will continue. We'll be back tomorrow as we do our fasting check-in, the complete review of fasting. And you get to see, by the way, you'll get to see what I'm going to eat to break the fast. I've got it. It's in the refrigerator. I brought it home today. It's there. That's what we're going to be using to fast. So come back and you get to see what I'm going to be using to break that fast. And we will be back on Saturday night at 9 p.m. for Video from the Vault. On Sunday morning, we'll be here with our This Week in Review. Those of you who are celebrating, hanging out with family, this weekend, tomorrow. Have fun. Enjoy the process. Be safe. Be safe. And I know there's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on. And here's the key. Here's the key. What happens on your holidays? What happens on your birthday and your anniversary and all the family functions and Christmas and Thanksgiving? That is not an abnormal process. So don't think, oh my goodness, this thing is coming up and it's going to take me off of my normal eating pattern. No. That is built into what we do. I need to come back and do another conversation about that, because this process that we're in, this fasting that we're in, this balanced bites, this little health action plan, it is not an abnormal process. So I don't want you to think of this as, oh, well, I'm going to go do that thing over there, and then when that's done, I'm coming back to the normal. No. This, what we're doing, is a continuum in all the things we do. The things you eat on Christmas and your birthday and the holidays, all of that is accounted for in the health action plan. As I said last week in one of our check-ins, is that we're not fasting and then getting back to normal after the fast. Fasting is at the center of our eating plan. We eat during our eating window and we fast during our fasting window. That's it. But I'm always glad when you're here, glad to be here with you and glad to be walking on this journey with you as we move into better metabolism. As I always say, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted. And we are living limitless lives, which says that we are not accepting what's there. We're not allowing anything from outside or anything from inside to prevent us from doing what we need to do. We're showing up with our best selves, our best health, and our best plans, and we are going to be successful. So go live a limitless life, and we'll see you in our next episode. Good night, everybody.